Mike, great to have you back here on NewsWire. And you know, it always used to seem like the months of May and June were like slow times. It just doesn't feel like that anymore. It feels like the sports calendar is always filled up with something. This weekend we had the Kentucky Derby, and actually the NBA is going on right now. Baseball has all these compelling stories. But thanks again for coming on. I'm sure we'll dive into a lot of them today.
Yeah, Craig, thanks for having me. Just, I mean, right here, we're at the epicenter, right around the corner from this studio is Madison Square Garden. And for the first time in a long time, there's a game here every night. Rangers, Knicks, Rangers, Knicks. I mean, it is pretty unbelievable. I think the vibe in the city is better. I don't know necessarily how you quantify that, but people just seem happier. And I think it's obviously because the local teams are potentially going to have an historic run, which really for the Rangers and Knicks at the same time, we haven't seen in 30 years. So the vibes are really strong in New York. It's getting nicer out, and fans are super excited. And it's been incredible to see Knicks fans take over Wells Fargo Center in Philly, and now a tough matchup with the Pacers coming up. And the way the Rangers responded yesterday in Game 1 against the Hurricanes. So vibes are immaculate in New York, and really nice to see as somebody who has lived here for more than a decade.
Yeah, Rangers were underdogs yesterday to Carolina and ended up taking an early lead and then hanging on in that one as well. Okay, so we got a surprise at the Kentucky Derby once again on a Saturday afternoon at Churchill Downs as Mystic Dan, 18-1, goes off as a pretty big dog to win. And a historic amount of money bet at Churchill Downs as far as the Kentucky Derby is concerned. Mike, what would the final numbers say? And did it surprise you at all to see this pretty massive handle come in?
Yeah, Craig, almost $211 million in all sources handled for the Kentucky Derby on Saturday, breaking the previous record. I think last year was around $189 million. So significant increase. I mean, is it surprising? Not necessarily, because a lot of states are legalizing. We saw Kentucky, where the Kentucky Derby is located, obviously legalized recently. That could have played a factor in it. And, the availability of this to be bet on, FanDuel Racing or DraftKings Racing, all these sports books now with shared wallet in terms of where you can get sports betting, and then you can transition right over with the same bankroll to bet horse racing. It's a huge event, only takes a couple minutes. A lot of people can be casuals. You don't have to follow horse racing every day to get involved. Something to do with your friends, whether you want to place exacta, trifecta, superfecta, whatever it is, really good way to get involved. So yeah, huge. And then you have the upset with Mystic Dan, 18-1 in the photo finish. Incredible over there. I'm no Jim Gazzelli. I'm no horse racing expert. Certainly watch myself, placed a couple losing bets, and we'll certainly be back at it here as we head into, the next race of Triple Crown season.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Preakness will be really compelling to see, because anytime you have a dog like this come through at this sort of number, it gains a lot more interest to see if they can win again. And the trainer already said, yes, going to race in the Preakness. I think that's awesome. Sometimes, honestly, Mike, I get it. When one of these big underdog horses ends up winning, they stop right there, right? They're like, okay, that's the end of it. We want to retire the horse right now. Hold the Kentucky Derby, make all the money off stud, as they say. But anyway, a story for Jim Gazzelli, as you said. All right, let's get to the NBA. One of the ideas behind the NBA trying to avoid this controversy is sort of to kind of limit a way that fans can bet on props from players that don't have a huge impact in the game. We're seeing this trend in college sports to eliminate it completely. Mike, do you think this is next for the NBA, players on 10-day contracts coming up from the G League or everywhere else, and saying you can't bet on this? Because the other thing that, if I'm not mistaken, that they could do, Mike, is they could just not offer these props entirely. I mean, am I saying the same thing? Is that the same thing here?
Yeah, Craig. So what we reported last week was that the NBA and its sportsbook partners had at least preliminary conversations. I'm sure they'll continue about what can be done to potentially prevent another Jonte Porter incident from happening. And like you said, the players that are potentially most vulnerable are the guys that have partial guarantees, non-guarantees. Like you said, two-way contracts where they're coming up from the G League, 10 days. I mentioned, minimum salaries, potential rookie scale deals. Maybe not Victor Wembanyama, but maybe some of those late first-round picks or guys, like you said, that aren't having too much of an impact, aren't going in games. Maybe they're on contending teams and they're playing the last couple of minutes. Trying to close up your vulnerabilities, right? I mean, these leagues always say, despite being business with these sports books, integrity is paramount. We don't want the perception that our games are rigged. But the legal industry was able to catch this Jonte Porter incident with the integrity monitor and the sports books alerting the league. And so the system did work. At the same time, you could argue separately, should these leagues ever have gotten into business with the sports book themselves? Certainly an argument for another day. But, they don't want this Jonte Porter incident to happen. And they feel like, not everyone's making the same amount of money as Steph Curry, LeBron James. Those max salary superstars wouldn't have necessarily the incentive to want to throw their careers. But, you did see a player whose brother's in the league and had a history of betting with the FanDuel VIP account, so certainly knew who, to give that inside information to and potentially win that $80,000 parlay. Fortunately, it was caught to win $1.1 million with him throwing his performance. So, yeah, the league cannot have, any players fixing games, certainly any teams fixing games. But obviously with the props, it's easy for a player to potentially leave with an illness, as this player did. So, you hope that they can clamp down on this, come to some sort of agreement where, you still are offering enough, but you're not offering players that are susceptible. Yeah, you kind of open yourself up to the black market, but how many people are betting Jonte Porter besides his friends and associates? So that's something that makes a lot of sense. Seems like a good PR win for the league. You hope that it doesn't happen on a grander scale, but this is something that can be shored up, and you hope they take care of business here.
Yeah, it's really an easy fix, I think, for all of this stuff. And I don't think it would be missed. A very small percentage of people betting on this, as you said, friends, family. Come on, just get rid of it. All right, Roger Goodell, not going to get rid of sports betting anytime soon with these incredible financial partnerships they have. On the Pat McAfee show, Goodell essentially says the show goes on with sports betting, right, Mike? Nothing is going to change here with the amount of money coming through.
Yeah, it just was kind of surprising, his answer, Craig. They said, has it heated up at Park Avenue in terms of, people talking about fixing games or the officiating? And Goodell said, I haven't felt that at all, which is just, shocking, obviously, given that the NFL has this billion-dollar deal with Caesars, FanDuel, and DraftKings over 5 years. So they're taking in tons of money on sports betting, and this is the natural progression that kind of came out of this is people are wondering, are these games fixed? Every time there's a bad call against your team or the team you're betting on, it seems like everybody's talking about that. So for him to say, he hasn't felt it at all, that just seems so tone deaf to me. It's fine to just say, yeah, we're feeling in the heat a little bit, but at the same time, we're taking all these measures, player education, making sure that, come this summer, there's not 10 players, suspended for gambling, and that the players are being educated and the staffers, and, the Jacksonville Jaguars incident with the employee betting in over his head at FanDuel. These are things that you hope the league takes care of. They suspended 25 employees, I think Goodell said, for gambling violations. So, yeah, making sure your policies are up to date, the players understand them, your coaches, executives, all that. And this is something that is felt, but you hope the league is taking care of business, and they also are, again, like the NBA and the others, because of their business relationships, they cannot afford a scandal of any sort of magnitude. Certainly, again, they don't want the Jonte Porters or the Calvin Ridley suspension. So, you hope that they're taking care of business. But yeah, this answer seemed a little tone deaf and delusional to me, given the financial stake the NFL has in this thing.
Yeah, they've had suspensions, as you said, in the NFL already. So, come on. It may not be very hot, but it's got to be a little warm. I think that would be the better answer there. But anyway, it's the commissioner, can say whatever he wants, making $100 million a year. Mike, thanks again for coming on NewsWire. I really appreciate it, and look forward to catching up with you again next week.
Thanks a lot, Craig. Take care.